The European Union started probably where we are now, and yet they were able to integrate. I am not old enough to know where the United States started, but I suspect that they saw the opportunity of being a united, conglomerated United States, and therefore implemented that vision.
Africa is endowed with so many natural resources, yet some local economies keep suffering, and to some extent, others are facing extreme hunger. Today on BizTech, my guest is Busi Mabusa, the chair of the Global BRICS Business Council, and she tells us how Africa can unlock its potential. My name is Ernestina Serwaa Asante. You're welcome to BizTech.
Thank you so much, Ernestina. I appreciate the opportunity.
So tell us how Africa can unlock its potential.
So, Ernestine, the fact that many nations, even outside of the BRICS nations, have such a keen interest on the African continent is precisely because of the endowment that we have in the mineral resources that we have underground, and secondly, the very youthful population that we have as a continent. Unfortunately, what has happened to date is that we export raw materials and then we import them as finished goods, which costs the continent immeasurably. I am pleased that a number of the presidents of our various nations have now started singing in one voice, and they are saying to the nations, whatever you need, come and beneficiate it here on the continent. I'm even more pleased that the African Continental Free Trade Area has now kicked into implementation mode. We're seeing more and more business people now engaging on the African Continental Free Trade Area, because this is the only way that we're going to be able to unlock the opportunity by creating regional value chains, inviting investors to come and invest in this continent and beneficiate in the continent. And I am so pleased that here at the AfCTFA annual meeting, we are already looking forward to a prosperous continent, and these steps will get us to that prosperity.
So how can businesses take advantage of AfCTFA? Because there are some challenges and people are not willing to come forward.
So the challenges are being ironed out. The challenges will have to be there because we are moving from, for example, in terms of logistics, a continent where shipping goods from one country to another would mean at each border there'd be a stop, there'd be different documentation, there would be all manner of requirements. As a result, taking inordinately long to get the goods from the point of shipping to the destination. Now we are talking about a seamless border control measures. Those are still discussions, but they will be realized because there are technology platforms that make this possible already. And of course, we had different standards, different tariffs, and all of those engagements that are now happening on that front will help unlock. It will take a while, but I think the will is there, and therefore it's up to us how quickly we can accelerate. There are examples all over the world. The European Union started probably where we are now, and yet they were able to integrate. I am not old enough to know where the United States started, but I suspect that they saw the opportunity of being a united, conglomerated United States, and therefore implemented that vision.
Now let's talk about agri-parks. What's your take on that? Do you think we need to become on board and start the creation of agri-parks?
So, Ernestine, it is an imperative that we get the common African agri-parks right for a number of reasons. We have the best arable land compared to any other continent in this world, yet we import in the order of 80% of the food that is consumed in this continent from other countries outside of the continent. So we're not even able to export to each other within the continent. And in my view, the fact that we've combined the concept of the common African agri-parks with research through FARA will enable us to start implementing. The expertise is there. If you look further south, there are very successful commercial farmers that have been there for many years. If you look at the partnerships, if I may use the example of the BRIC nations, all four of the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India and China, are amongst the top 10 exporters of food products into the rest of the world. So there are lessons that we can learn there. There are technologies that we can share and make sure that we start implementing. If we now start moving across the borders and look at a common agri-park, we'll be able to then combine into size and scale that starts making sense for any investor. The Indian authorities were able, just in July 2022, to attract over $2 billion to their agri-parks as investment. Africa is much more, I think, attractive than India, and the opportunity is there for us to take.
What was the estimation? How much are we looking at for Africa Agri-Parks?
So the order and magnitude I don't have at my fingertips at the moment, but if you look at it the other way, Ernestine, it is reported that we import in the order of $80 billion worth of food into the continent. $80 billion worth. Now, if that is a starting point, that we as a continent can aim to substitute those imports worth $80 billion, then it's an opportunity way beyond my lifetime. And I hope that you as young people are going to be pursuing that. In addition, we should be at a point in no time at all, I think in a matter of a decade, where we can start exporting the produce that we are able to cultivate in the African continent. Already we see, for example, the Southern African countries competing on avocado produce that they're exporting to the European Union and other areas, competing on citrus produce. And I won't even talk about the coffee that everybody wants in the world because of its quality. We need to go back to the basics and make sure that we grab this opportunity with both hands.
Talking about the local farmers, one of their major concerns has been access to fertilizers. What can we do to make sure that fertilizers are available for them to continue working?
So it is a pity that once again we have the mineral resources, the phosphates, for example. If you look at fertilizers that are phosphate based, the reserves, I think over 80% of the reserves underground of phosphates are in the African continent. Of course, mostly in Morocco and Egypt belt, a little bit in Southern Africa. And yet we import the majority of the fertilizer that is needed in the continent. if I may use South Africa as an example, there are a couple of companies still small in the scale of the need in the continent that are producing fertilizers, and we've done everything possible to make sure that we protect that production and preserve it. The next challenge is going to be, how do we expand the production of fertilizers in the continent? Morocco is doing it very successfully, and I think where we have the natural resources underground also, we should start producing. But I suspect that there may be other technology and innovation that you as young people can look to ensure that we are beneficiating our resources and producing the fertilizers that we need. The BRICS nations are currently talking, and this will be discussed further during August when we host the BRICS nations in South Africa, currently talking about ensuring fertilizer availability in the continent. We have India, we have China that have expertise in the production of fertilizers. We want them to bring their investment into the continent and help us produce here for the continent.
The conversation is getting interesting. We are taking a quick break. When we come back, we talk about the upcoming BRICS Summit and how we can end the influx of substandard pharmaceutical products.
Everyone needs the perfect snack to munch on during a fun moment.
Wow.
Enjoy the tasty McBerry Twist cupcakes, deliciously baked and packaged for a sweet treat. Premium quality cakes baked with love for all, enriched in butter and milk.
Yummy. Oh,
McBerry Twist cupcakes, simply irresistible. Try one today. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back from the break. My guest is the Global Chair of BRICS Council. So let's talk about the BRICS Summit, which is upcoming in August, right? Okay, so what should we look out for?
So we're very excited because this is going to be the first time that the BRICS nations meet in person since 2019 in Ernestina. And so there is this pent-up demand for us to have the person-to-person interaction that you and I are having now at the moment. But the BRICS Business Council is putting together a program that we hope will be meaningful for our partners and for the continent. The theme, of course, as has always been the case, is BRICS and Africa, partnership for global sustainable development and inclusive multilateralism. And under that theme, we as the BRICS Business Council are looking at sector-focused engagements with business. And I'm here to actually invite our African counterparts to come and join us. Flagship events are going to be around energy, a very important need for the continent. Agriculture. You have already touched on the agribusiness opportunity that we have in this continent. And the third one will be skills development, pertinent for the continent that is so youthful, so aspirational, and ready to grab the opportunity. And we have had engagements to date in various working groups, and some of our working groups include areas such as aviation, infrastructure, an area of great need, and I already talked about energy and the green economy. And we want business to come and first of all showcase to them. We want to showcase the investment opportunity in this continent. We want to showcase to them the innovation that this continent offers. So there'll be buying missions where we'll be taking people to different nodes to see what products they can get from us, what services they can actually purchase from us, and of course where they can invest for a return. And following that, then we'll have the sector engagements with specific outcomes. We are hoping, of course, to have to launch an African Center of Energy Excellence. And this relates to the just energy transition, because we want to ensure that as people pay more and more attention to the impact of the carbon footprint, that we don't do it in a way that then leaves the African continent outside of developments. We need to make sure that we didn't have the carbon, we didn't cause the problems that we're seeing in terms of climate change. We are an energy hungry continent, and therefore we should be funded towards a just transition. And this Center of Excellence will assist us in ensuring that we've got data to challenge the other nations to invest.
So how do we stop the influx of substandard pharmaceutical products on our market?
So the engagements on tariff and non-tariff barriers are very, very important. And I'm most pleased, Ernestina, that industry is involved already in those engagements. And I believe that will assist in ensuring that we set up protocols that allow for the locking out of these substandard products that we've seen coming into the continent. We need to make sure that the producers of pharmaceuticals actually sign to protocols for ethical business conduct if they are wanting to import into the continent. But finally, I'm excited about the investment that we're seeing in the continent of pharmaceutical production. And the African Development Bank, I'm aware, is spending quite a lot of energy and resources to ensure that we start producing ourselves. And I believe that these opportunities will start displacing the substandard.
Thank you very much, Busi Mabusa, for joining us on BizTech today.
Much appreciated, Ernestina.
I hope you've learned a thing or two and how Africa can unlock its potential. My name is Ernestina Serwaa Asante. Biz Headlines follows.